we're talking about insurance, business liability insurance, also called general liability insurance. I really honestly don't know why so many small businesses forego insurance. I understand that some people just simply are not aware that they need to have insurance for their business. But some of the people that I have talked to, I was like, hey, you need to get insurance. And a lot of the times I've heard, I just can't afford it right now, or I'll get it later. But that's essential. And I'm going to go into why you need business liability insurance. I do have a strong background in insurance and insurance claims and business insurance. So the thing with liability means that you could be responsible. There's some responsibility somewhere. Like you could be responsible for something. Almost every industry has some liability. One of the biggest ones would be the food industry. You know, if you're a baker, if you're a caterer, if you're a chef, there's a lot of liability there. Even if you haven't done anything wrong, sometimes you just have people that are bottom feeders. They are looking for the next come up, and they make a career out of filing insurance claims or being sick or saying that something caused them injury. And in your small business, the last thing that you need is for someone to say that your product or your service caused them an injury. And an injury isn't just like a bodily injury. Sometimes people sue for like public embarrassment, public humiliation, things like that. So like if you work in a service industry and you maybe give somebody some type of advice and they use it and you haven't given some type of disclaimer that can be proven, then they could possibly sue you. And so that's where insurance comes in, because if there's some type of claim against your business, chances are you're not going to know what to do. You could just turn it over to your insurance carrier and they can handle it for you. So with general liability insurance for businesses, it is widely available and it's significantly cheaper than it has been in years past. For artisans, people that make anything with their hands, from raw ingredients, like if you make pottery, if you make dolls from scratch, like if you build things, you make things, there is a specific insurance for an artisan. And it usually ranges from like $275 to like maybe $500. You of course have to shop around, but I will put a link in the description below for artisans to look up insurance, because it's something that you really, really need. Typically, you can pay for the policy up front. Like you don't have to pay on it monthly, but some insurance carriers will say, oh, it's $35 a month, or you could just pay for it and be done with it, and that policy is good for a year. Most of these general liability insurance policies, they have what's called an annual aggregate. Typically, they start at like $1 million. And some are, of course, above that. Typically, like if you're planning on being in stores, like if you plan on going into wholesale and you want your product to be sold in stores, $1 million is not enough. They require significantly more than that. So you can start out with like a $1 million policy annual aggregate. And basically that annual aggregate means in a calendar year or during the life of that policy, which is a calendar year, that is the most that they will pay for a liability claim, for the general liability. So in a calendar year, I don't care how many claims you get, the most we're going to pay is $1 million. So if you get your first claim, God forbid, if you have a claim and they end up paying out $500,000 on that one claim, well, you have $500,000 left if you have that $1 million policy for the end of the year. In all of the years that I've been in business, I've never had an insurance claim. But then again, I always double check to make sure that I'm doing things as right as I possibly can. But you just never know when you're going to run into somebody who's going to file a claim. Going back into liability, the reason why you need insurance, so many people, they don't readily see the instances of liability and everything. But because I've been in the insurance industry for so long, I see liability in almost everything. For example, if you are an artisan and maybe you make t-shirts, maybe a piece of the t-shirt could have fallen off into a baby's mouth, and like a piece of that vinyl or something, and that baby chokes on it. Well, they could file a claim where they could that retail customer could say, hey, your t-shirt was not properly made and a piece of that vinyl fell off and my child choked on it. Or if you make household goods, things that hang up, and maybe you make something that hangs on the wall in above a crib, like on the wall above a crib, and you did not properly make it, and it ended up falling and it fell on that baby's face, and it didn't kill him, but it did cause an injury. That customer could come back to you with a hospital bill that's $15,000 and say, hey, you owe me this hospital bill because your product, blah, 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 blah. Or what could happen is they can, of course, if they have their own insurance, their own health insurance, they can go to the hospital. Their insurance will, of course, cover it, but then their insurance may subrogate or pursue your business to reimburse them for the cost of that medical care because it was your fault. If you're an event planner, you could design an event space, and maybe somebody trips and falls and breaks their ankle over something that you designed in that event space. It's liability. So there's liability in a lot of things that you may not think of. If you have skincare, I make skincare. Somebody could say that, well, your product caused me to break out, like it caused a rash, it caused this, it caused that. Of course, they have to kind of prove it, but still that battle of them accusing your business of something, you need to just let your insurance company handle it instead of you handling it. Like if they come to you and they say, hey, here is a $1,500 bill because I went to the ER, I need you to pay it. What are you going to do? Say no? How do you handle that? Typically, you probably wouldn't know how to handle that. That's why you would turn it over to your insurance, file a claim. Now, with general liability claims for insurance, there's no deductible. There's no out of pocket. Like, how if you have an auto claim and you have to get your own car fixed under your own policy, and you have that $500 deductible, you have that $250 deductible, like your part of the claim, there's nothing like that in a general liability insurance claim. Again, I've never had an insurance claim against my business, but I have a background in insurance. So I really take it to heart. I take it very seriously. I'm making sure that you are covered. Just like if you have homeowners insurance, you may pay on that insurance for 10 years before you file a claim, but you never want to get caught without that insurance. And that's a gamble that a lot of small businesses play because they feel like I don't have the money for it, or I could just get it later. It's not that big of a deal, but it is a big of a deal. People tend to downplay the possibilities until something bad happens, and that's just human nature. People do that all the time, and it's not a big deal until something bad happens, and they want to scramble and try to figure out how to fix it. Well, it could have not been an issue in the first place because you could have had insurance. So that's a really big deal to make sure you go and get insurance. That's why I'm going to put a few links in the description below so that you can look into that. It's a business expense. It's something that you can add to your business when you file your taxes. So it's not like you're just wasting money. It's something that you can write off. For wholesale, if you plan on going into wholesale, they require for you to have insurance, and they may say you need at least a $3 million policy. So you want to have that ready. It would just look bad if you didn't have a policy and then you hurry up and got one the day that they ask for one. That would kind of look bad. Some pop-up shops and vendors, they require for you to have insurance before you vend at their event. I've been invited to events, some pretty nice events, and they said, hey, send me a copy of your declarations page, a copy of your insurance policy showing what your coverages are. And on top of it, we need to be included as a payee or as an interested party on that policy. And I would just have them add it and send them a copy of it. So it's not just for your own peace of mind. For these vendors and these retailers, they need to know that too, that you are responsible enough to have an insurance policy. So there's so many different ways that there can be instances of liability, even if you don't see it. I recommend anybody who is pursuing a small business to get a general liability insurance policy. It also covers some of your equipment and some of your property. So if you have, like if you maybe rent the place that you live, that renter's insurance does not necessarily cover business because that's a different thing. A renter's policy covers your stuff, not business stuff, because you should be having a business policy. Same as if you have a home that you own and you have homeowner's insurance. That homeowner's insurance is either not going to cover any business equipment, any business items that you have, or it'll cover a really, really small amount. So that's why you want to have a separate policy so that you're covered. If you work out of your home, God forbid if you have a fire and then you have all of this equipment, you have materials, ingredients, and they all go up in flames, you can file a claim on your insurance policy for those items if you have a business policy, so you're not just out of luck. So go ahead, visit the links below, check out the insurance if you haven't already. If you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment below or send a message, and I'll be more than happy to help you out if you have more questions about business insurance. Just to recap, business insurance is typically an annual aggregate, a maximum amount that they are willing to pay on insurance claims in a calendar year, which is typically the length of the policy period. It includes general liability, and it also includes some coverages for your stuff. It also, it'll have some spaces, like if you need to add someone else as maybe an interested party, like if a retailer says, hey, we need to be added on your insurance, you can do that. So you're covered all the way around. Worst case scenario, somebody could file a claim and they could say, hey, here's a bill. Let's say if it's a small bill, it may not be an issue. If it's $100 or something and, they go away, that's nothing. But what if they come back and they have a bill that's thousands of dollars and they accuse your product of being the cause of that damage? I'd rather pay $400 a year for an insurance policy that's going to cover this potential $15,000 bill that this person is going to put against me, versus having to pay that out of pocket. And if something happens and they file suit, your insurance may also be able to assist you in that. So again, I hope that helps. Go ahead, check out the description box below, and then don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. Go ahead and subscribe if you haven't, and then hit the bell so that you know when a video has been uploaded. Thanks so much, and see you next video.